It is 6 o'clock, so we will now begin. This will be a public hearing. Before we begin, we'll first take roll of our school board members. School board members, if you could please unmute when I call your name to make sure that you're all linked in. Okay, Ms. Derenak Kofax.
I'm here. Good evening.
Good evening. Ms. Abrar Omesh.
Good evening.
Good evening. Ms. Elaine Tolan.
I'm here. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Hello. Ms. Corbett Sanders.
Good evening. I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody.
Thank you. Ms. Keys Gamara.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Frisch.
Good evening.
Hello. Ms. Laura Jane Cohen.
Good evening.
Hello. Ms. Megan McLaughlin.
Hi, good evening.
Hello. Ms. Rachna Sizemore-Heiser.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Hi. Dr. Ricardi Anderson.
Good
I
evening.
can't hear anything.
Hi. Oh,
How do you
hello.
hear?
How are you?
There. Oh, Dr. Anderson, hi. We can hear you. Hi.
I think
And
that was
Ms. Stella
somebody else
Pekarsky.
speaking. That wasn't me.
Yes, I heard two speakers. I did hear you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
And
Good evening.
Good evening, Stella. Thank you. Okay. Well, we are here again to have a public hearing. And this is of the Fairfax County Public Schools allotment of elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, also known as Esser, or Esser 3 in this case. So on behalf of the entire school board, as the budget committee chair, I'm Melanie Merrin. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts with us. A condition of receiving this federal award is to hear community input. So this is one way that we are doing so. We continue to hear input via email and other discussions through staff and constituents, parents, and students. This hearing is also being broadcast live on Channel 99 and streamed on fcps.edu/TV/channel or CH99. We have about 90 speakers registered to address the board this evening. Each of you is allotted 3 minutes, and we ask that you please do stay within that time. The timer will start when you begin to speak, and it will sound with a bell at the conclusion of your 3 minutes. At that time, the clerk will also switch you out of being an active speaker, and you can certainly join in to hear the remaining broadcast on that Channel 99 or live stream. Please do refrain from addressing topics other than the use of these ESSER 3 funds. Your input will really help us to inform the superintendent on how best to use those funds. When your name's called, please unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Tonight's hearing will adjourn at 10 p.m. If there are speakers who have not addressed the board by that time, you'll be added to tomorrow's public hearing, which is about a school boundary, and the clerk will be contacting you if that is the case. Thank you for your patience as we work to hear everyone's input. So I now call on our first speaker to share their comments, and Ms. Mulberg or Ms. Madeja, I'll turn it over to you to manage calling the speakers and the time limits. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Arman Nikmarad.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Arman Nikmarad. I currently serve as the SJ president for McLean High School and the SSC rep for McLean. I come today to address issues that my peers and I face at school. For the upcoming school year, FCPS students will be facing a setback in learning standards. And to address that issue, I strongly believe that FCPS should improve their high school after-school programs. As of now, FCPS has only set aside 1 day for after-school busing a week, compared to middle school, which is 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. If FCPS expands the high school after-school program by adding more busing programs and adding more security to the buildings, that will allow for more students to receive more help from their teachers, expand peer tutoring groups, and allow students to be more active in more extracurricular clubs. This will allow students to have access to all those resources during the week than to be limited to do those activities once a week. I believe that expanding the high school after-school programs will make up for the major learning loss that students have faced this year and give the opportunity for students to expand their high school portfolios. Finally, another issue I bring to today is the facilities upkeep. The bathrooms at McLean have been in need of complete renovation for a long time now. The men's bathroom has no dividers between the urinals and has led to unnecessary hazing and harassment and overall unsanitary for students. I hope some of the funds can be used to fix our bathrooms and overall the construction budget to be compliant with the American Disabilities Act. Thank you for your time, and I hope you take my inputs into consideration.
Thank you. I do not see our second, third, or fourth speaker, Kira Bikaja, Anshara Malik, and Esram Kadane. Number 5, Sophia Koka. And I believe we have number 6, Pranav Chudari. Pranav Chudari.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, board members. My name is Pranav Chowdhury, and I'm a rising senior at Langley High School. I'm also the incoming student rep to the Fairfax County School Board for the 2021-2022 school year. Tonight, I originally came here to talk to you about systems of support advisors and how funding that position at the middle school level could yield life-changing results for struggling students across every corner of this county. However, as I talked about during my election, we are at a crossroads in the magnitude of the crises we face. As we prepare for an in-person return to school, one thing truly sticks out: overcrowding. Overcrowding conditions have gotten so dire across our county that we now have multiple elementary schools in which more students learn in temporary trailers than in their actual school building. It's no coincidence that these schools are almost entirely located in low-income, heavily Latino, and heavily immigrant communities. For example, Glen Forest Elementary School in the Justice Pyramid is expected to be at 146% of its capacity without modulars. And Forestdale Elementary in the John Lewis Pyramid is expected to be at 176% capacity without modulars. At Forestdale, over 60% of students qualify for free reduced meals, and almost half of students are non-native English speakers. At Glen Forest, more than 75% are on free and reduced lunch, and over 60% are English language learners. The federal government has given us several $100 million to address these crises that we face. That's why I'm asking that we use some of that money, just a tiny, tiny fraction, for capacity enhancements at both of these elementary schools. It's our duty as a county not just to educate our students, but to ensure that they're learning in a safe and humane environment. And most importantly, to invest in our communities equitably. Let's do that, and let's show our residents that we care by investing in Forestdale and Glen Forest. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Henry Allen Street, who I don't see on the list. And speaker number 8, Olivia Tennant. Speaker number 9, Norm Hall.
Good evening. The frame provided by FCPS to community stakeholders for tonight is unusual. Why so little guidance in how staff would solve short-term problems with more than $163 million in funding? We don't see clearly defined baseline conditions such as school facility issues or specific staff shortages to be mitigated by short-term investments. And most critical of all, missing our benchmarks by schools depicting various levels of remedial need. Remarkable. No hint of metrics for how marginalized students fell behind. How much was it shifting methods to access education this year? Fewer evaluations supporting special education programs? Disrupted support for English language learners? COVID-related trauma? I would like to think that the framing of final recommendations for Esser funding will take into account the permutation of staff, students, facilities, and other resources at each school. In other words, let's have 194 school-level reviews where the administrators, teachers, staff, students, and families can develop options by talking about the unmet needs before them and then work on solutions that would best provide the best fit. Imagine school communities working together rather than multiple voices, all trying to compete for the best one-size-fits-all solutions, because stakeholders are not aware of varying school contexts. What should be considered uniformly are issues like childcare that cut across neighborhoods and the range of parents who need help returning to work as the Fairfax economy opens up. FCPS should set reserved childcare spaces. Parents should register for it, and the county needs long-term employees for it. And if Fairfax County can't hire enough merit staff to get the job done, then why not let FCPS hire temporary staff to do this work, as well as other tasks that need to be done this summer and through the year? Consider a companion SRS program to support the transition of distinct sets of students who may need more time to return to school so their education can be structured around their previously hidden needs. And please find a more humane approach to mitigate the harsh standard that FCPS has taken by considering only a student's health matters rather than the medically fragile status of others in their household who may be immunocompromised. This supporting return to school program could use SAC staff, avid tutors, instructional assistants, substitute teachers, and homebound teachers with Esser funding to transition from 1, small virtual classes to 2, separate clusters meeting in classrooms, and or 3, traditional homebound approaches to 4, eventually the transition of all students back to traditional classroom teacher instruction. All too often, school administrator and central staff have taken an all or nothing approach to students who may do better outside of traditional classroom spaces and instruction. Why not combine academic support along these lines with the extra mental health supports which FCPS has wisely included in so many plans to date? I know there are many FCPS staff with knowledge and experience working with students who struggled before the pandemic with getting back to classrooms with conventional forms of instruction on a regular basis. Let's find a way to tap into that with some planning for this. Please, not one and done comments, not with a cacophony of testimony. We need collaborative, ongoing dialogue to develop modules to plan for the largest school transition ever. Let's get to work. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Our next speaker, number 10, George Becerra.
Madam Clerk, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Madam Clerk, what are we going to do for MSAOC? We have 2 spots tonight. I'm just going to give the spot right now to Dr. Lawrence Bussey. So he's number 85. So if he can take his number out, but he's going to speak right now. Thank you very much.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Bussey.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Marin. My name is Lawrence Bussey. I'm a resident of Reston, Virginia, and I'm here this evening as a member of and representing the Minority Student Achievement Oversight Committee. This is our 29th anniversary as a school board advisory committee that focuses on improving minority student achievement. And also as part of our charge this year from the school board to monitor issues affecting minority student achievement arising out of the plan to reopen schools. We submitted a letter on April 23rd to the school system outlining our recommendations for the use of these funds. So I'm here tonight just to elaborate on that point. As you know, the American Rescue Plan Act enacted on March 21st to provide an additional 122 billion funding, of which FCPS, as we understand, received 189 million, and that 20% of those funds must be used to address learning loss. And the period of performance for that is for March 13th, 2020 through September 30th, 2024. We advocated in our letter these 6 items: expansion of the community schools from 3 to 5. And those are the 2 additional ones would be Hutchinson and Herndon, hiring of program manager for the community schools, and providing extra funds for professional development for these new sites. The second thing we're advocating for is funding summer activities for 63 young scholars schools and provide stipends for counselors to identify young scholars, middle school students for honors classes. The third item that we advocate for is opening up 6 more early Head Start and 6 additional pre-K classrooms for school year 21-22. The fourth item is increasing the number of credit recovery slots for the summer. The fifth item is providing summer and year-long training for parent liaisons and classroom mentors to assist parents on how to use technology to help their children at home. And finally, the last item is to expand the middle school after-school programs so that we can serve more children. With that, that summarizes our letter, and thank you very much for the opportunities to address you this evening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is number 11, Kimberly Adams.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Kimberly Adams, and I'm speaking as president of the Fairfax Education Association, a union representing your employees. This evening, we share our input for the development of the appropriation of the Esser 3 funds. We are told that this amount is approximately $189 million. While that is a lot of money, it is very small compared to the $3.8 billion budget appropriated annually for this school system. This means that the Esser $3 will need to be targeted to support very specific items that our school system is in need of as we return from and recover from COVID-19. FEA would like to once again point out that we have continued to lose ground in recruitment and retention of highly qualified staff in nearly all major job classifications: teachers, custodians, food services, instructional assistants, transportation, and more. This is critical for our system. Increasing salaries was one way to show a workforce that they were valued, but this next year's increase is already in jeopardy. We would ask that some of the dollars be put towards increases in FCPS healthcare costs to ensure that our 2% raise is truly a full 2% raise and not just enough to cover our increased costs. We would also ask that back pay be given as a bonus to all employees who continued service with FCPS this past school year, similar to what the county is giving its employees. We would then ask that an additional bonus compensation be given to those employees who worked in person during the pandemic before vaccines were available. FEA would also like to once again point out that we have failed to hire and retain adequate substitute workforce to back us up when we are sick or need to be out to support our own families. This includes all job classes who are unable to be absent without adequate coverage to continue to service our students. Increased compensation for substitutes is needed, as well as a plan to encourage them to pick up more sub-positions during the school year, perhaps a system of reward based on the number of positions of sub-covers, or a tiered system of compensation, up to and even including healthcare coverage options. Our last issue around training off contract hours. There are many, many who are often asked to provide on-the-job training without compensation or to attend training without compensation. These expectations are forced on all types of employees without any acknowledgement of the work expected to be done off contract time, often requiring the childcare arrangements or leave from other paying jobs to complete their FCPS responsibilities, often acting in fear of retaliation or loss of future wages or job promotions. Tonight, we know that many in the community are making very valid asks of you as well, and that these millions will not cover all our needs. We expect that you will work more explicitly over the next 6 months to develop a truly needs-based budget for FCPS, as prescribed by the Code of Virginia for all of your budgets. It is possible to encourage stakeholder engagement earlier in the process, much like the opportunities being given to us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is number 12.
Good evening,
Mute your
Madam
microphone.
Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the school board. My name is Sarah Jane Lewis, and I am an art educator, FCPS alumni, mindfulness coach, and yoga teacher. I'm here today to speak on behalf of a program called CALM, which stands for Children and Communities Achieving Lifelong Mindfulness. This program was started by Suan Dubey, and it was created to support students and staff with mindfulness and movement techniques. For months, we have heard FCPS students, staff, school board members, and families calling for additional and consistent mental health. CALM is a solution that has had great success in providing what our students need. I'm passionate about mental health because I believe it is the art of living. And as a student in FCPS many years ago, I never received these skills that I had to later acquire in life. This past school year, I've been teaching CALM virtually. And I want the opportunity to teach mindfulness in person next school year and to be able to spread this program. And I've approached my principals about it. And as much as they believe in it, their hands are tied due to restrictions in funding and lack of a centralized curriculum from the FCPS central office. Our schools need a dedicated block of time for mindfulness and movement. It is the key, the token to the art of living. For years, our students' mental health has been in a crisis, and this pandemic has certainly exacerbated it. Our students need consistent, preventative mental health resources to their safety, happiness, and well-being. As you all know, at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is self-actualization, and meditation, movement, mindfulness is proven to boost self-esteem, feelings of self-worth, belonging, and self-actualization. Please support this program of CALM through the use of this year's ESSR funds. Thank you this evening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Blyweiss. Can you mute your microphone, please? Our next speaker is number 13, Sheryl Binkley.
Hello. My name is Sheryl Gibbs Binkley. Good evening, board members and FCPS staff. As always, thank you for the deeply difficult job that you continue to do for our communities and our children. When I Googled Esser funds in preparation for tonight, the first 4 hits were ads for computerized instruction, remediation, and data collection with promises of increased accountability, faster learning, and easy answers. Please don't believe their hype. I can assure you what we don't need is more computer time for our kids and for our staffs right now. With the availability of Esser funds, we have a golden opportunity. As our children return to buildings in 21-22, we can help them fall in love with school again. After a year of ever-changing landscape, fear, and isolation, it's extremely important to approach their return to buildings as the gift and opportunity it can be. By looking at this moment with a view to enrichment and enhancement, not from a stance of loss and remediation, we will better serve their mental health and wellness needs. Being seen as behind and damaged is not what they need right now. Please look for ways to return them to the joy of learning, not the burden of being less. And please give their teachers and supporters the maximum freedom to design how to do that best. Similarly, these funds can help you recover the allegiance and equilibrium of your staffs by compensating them, if only for this year, for the meager funding you were forced to implement in the recently passed budget. Our workers, whether educators or support staff, need to hear from you in concrete compensation that you value the remarkable sacrifices, extra hours, flexibility, and innovative problem solving that they exhibited this year. It's the only way to stave off the loss of employees that's in the making. Finally, parents and students must feel confident that they will return to buildings safely, with adequate mediation of dangers and with enough staff to ensure custodial, food handling, transportation, and engineering services will be able to meet their safety needs. That may mean hiring temporary additional staff until the transition is passed and purchasing material resources for staff to meet those health and safety needs. Please stay focused on what are the needs of our students and our families at this point in time. Thank you again.
Thank you. Our next speaker is number 14, Sue-Ann Tupy.
Good evening, everyone, and members of the board. My name is Sue-Ann Tupy, and I'm a teacher at Groveton Elementary, Title I school. And I've been teaching for over 26 years. 25 of those years is at Groveton. I've been involved with kindergarten, preschool, going into homes and working with families, and also as a lead mentor dealing with many of the stresses that teachers have during the day. The last 3 years, I have worked as a resource teacher in the CALM program that Sarah mentioned earlier. And in about 4 days, I'm going to be retiring from Fairfax County, and I'm here speaking from my heart about a program called CALM that actually I wrote and with my principal, Jim Swagger, and went through instructional services, and it was approved. And it stands for Children and Communities Achieving Lifelong Mindfulness. And this program addresses the social and emotional literacy for the students. The proposal was written out of the need for teachers and teacher burnout because of the demands that are put on us across the county. And students are taught in this class hands-on ways to regulate, improve their self-esteem, and reduce their stress. The program is in many schools in the county, and it is proven by the students it's one of their favorite specials. It's part of a special rotation, so the students are involved in our COM classroom 30 minutes a week, and they are learning additional tools for student success and their social literacy. So, and I have been advocating with the school board for over 5 years now. We have Dr. Bravery came and visited, and several of the school members. We all have talked to them and shared the program with them. And we really hope that this is a program that really will make use of the ESSR's funds, because it's already in the schools and it already has the support of the community and the students. And when the students come to the room, they have a chance to pause, notice how they're feeling, and really, really learn strategies to center themselves and help them to have a productive day as they go about their day and actually take it home at school. So as I prepare to step down from my role of teaching in Fairfax County Public Schools, my dream and hope is that you will seriously consider and look further into the COM program as an additional tool for social emotional literacy that will always provide these students with a lifelong skill, and not only the students and the staff. We know that learning loss cannot begin until our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, number 15, is Molly Young, and I don't see Molly Young. Number 16, Justin Velez Hagen. Number 17, Sue Zoldak. Speaker number 18, Lauren McCoffey. Go ahead, Ms. McCoffey.
Hello, my name is Lauren McCaughey, and I am a parent to 3 FCPS students, 2 of whom have disabilities. Esser is a windfall for the district, the chance to put millions of dollars into use quickly. How can those dollars best be used in a transformative way? ATS. Assistive Technology Services uses adaptive technology tools to maximize the potential of FCPS students with disabilities. According to the FCPS website, quote, ATS staff members work in collaboration with school teams to ensure that all students with disabilities who require assistive technology have the technology tools and training necessary in order to access the curriculum, narrow the achievement gap, gain essential life skills, and reach their full potential, end quote. Esser funds could transform current realities and make the previous sentence true in practice. Currently, ATS is radically understaffed and underfunded, with AT resource teachers supporting an average of 8 to 10 school sites each. We need millions of dollars to purchase new tools, hire additional staff, provide extensive training to staff and students in their use, and build the capacity of school teams to incorporate assistive technology options for all students with disabilities. Nothing is as magical as enabling a student to communicate more fully, to read previously inaccessible texts, to interact with their teachers and peers in ways which were not accessible without new technologies. Introducing the right tech tools at the right times will transform the futures that students with disabilities can reach. 5 years from now, will we remember how Esser funds got used? Will we be able to point at measurable results and say, this is what the millions got us? If we direct sufficient funds into ATS, we'll be amazed. This is our chance for a truly transformative change, in how well FCPS provides an equitable education for its students with disabilities and help to make up for their huge learning losses due to COVID. Please don't squander this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is number 19, Jihoon Do. Speaker number 20, Amanda Grier. Amanda Grier.
Yes, hi. My name is Amanda Grier, and I'm a parent of 2 elementary age children at a Title I school in the Mason District. My husband is a Fairfax County ESOL school teacher, and we're both foster parents. And Mason District has been hit really hard by COVID. We experienced some of the highest rates in Virginia, and I personally lost family members to COVID, and including my younger brother, who was a 30-year-old new father. None of my children right now are eligible for the vaccine, including my kindergartner, who is high risk for severe illness. So in my opinion, the best way to use these funds is through rapid testing, so that the nurse in the schools can start testing children when they start experiencing symptoms, and we can find out sooner when there are children who are infected. I also think that the virtual school program should be expanded. There were a lot of children who learned a great deal through the virtual school, including one of my children. And that should be an option, not just for those who are high risk, but also for those who are siblings of high risk children as well. We all know that if your biggest risk is living with someone who is also COVID positive. So I think that the funds, putting them where the children who are the most vulnerable in our community, and targeting those would be very important. I also think that that teacher pay is a real issue in this county. Our real estate taxes are through the roof right now, and teachers are not experiencing that pay. Some of the teachers, they are not able to even make enough to pay for childcare for their own children. Many of them are working second jobs, and we are asking more and more and more of them every single day, not just during this pandemic, but before the pandemic. And we are losing teachers. We experienced a teacher shortage before this, and we are going to continue to that, especially for our English language learners. These children have been through the ringer, and it's more than just not having access to their teachers in person, but seeing their family members sick and dying from this terrible illness. So these teachers need to be paid better. Their 2% increase is meager. It's pathetic. It doesn't even keep up with inflation, and it's been stagnating for years. We need to pay our teachers better. Our children deserve teachers who are paid better, who don't need to work second jobs, who don't need to worry about where their own children are during the workday, and can focus on teaching our children during the core teaching hours. And let's not keep asking them to do continuous extracurricular activities and continuous learning that is outside of their regular hours. They have to pay for childcare. They have to focus on their own curriculum and their own instruction. We have learned that teachers are the key to this. Let's pay them correctly.
Thank you. Speaker number 21, Rory Cooper. Speaker number 22, Bushra Khan. Speaker number 23, Asra Rahman.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, good evening. I want to start by saying I'm glad of this opportunity to voice my opinions. I was disappointed by the letter Dr. Brabant sent out a few weeks ago about the effects of the rise of anti-Semitism. The rise in hate has been increasing and affecting many of our children, as well as staff and families in FCPS. To specify one form of hate over others diminishes the feelings of those who've continually faced hate and discrimination without it being addressed. I'm speaking not only on my behalf, of myself and my 3 FCPS daughters, but I've heard from many of my friends and my daughter's friends about the lack of acknowledgement of their pain. I want to commend God for continuing to reach out to all FCPS families affected by the rising tide of hate and her efforts toward finding a way forward. She has been vilified and attacked, as has our community, and this has to stop. We need to learn from history and not allow our community. With regards to the funding, I'm talking about the funding right now.
Thank you. If you please get the Esser funding, that would be most helpful to the board this evening. Thank you so much. Oh, I believe you're muted, Ms. Drummond.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
With regards to funding, I want to make sure that funding is available to hire assistants to help with math and science. Many of our kids have fallen behind and struggle to catch up. Having an assistant in the classroom will allow more students to receive the help they need during class time. Allow teachers to truly see where students are struggling and how to best help. Secondly, more funding needs to be made available for counselors. Kids need to know they have a safe space to voice their fears, concerns, and get the help they need. Thirdly, funding should go towards ensuring no staff pays out of pocket for PPEs. I know from my own family who are teachers in FCPS that they've had to pay for face masks and things like that. I want to make sure that teachers, assistants, janitorial, cafeteria, or office staff should not have to pay for any of this from their own pockets, and that it should be readily available to them. Finally, adding additional after-school help and tutoring, especially for math and science for high schoolers. This is paying teachers overtime, and adding busing is increasingly necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Speaker number 24, Dennis Bennett. Speaker number 25, Arbina Sharetha. Number 26, Michael Ravenscroft. Speaker number 27, Kevin Johnson.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll be brief. I currently am a father of 5 children in the Fairfax County public school system, ranging in age from 15 years old down to 2 6-year-old twins in elementary school. So first of all, I would like to say thanks to the Fairfax County public school system administrators and teachers for a very difficult time this year. The one thing that I would have to say about the funding and that I was completely surprised about this last year was the inadequate virtual distance learning experience. It was, it was not what I expected from Fairfax County public school system. So, being in the DCA, I would always have thought that, because of where we are location-wise, that distance learning or taking advantage of the technology because of the potential of attacks within our community we have seen before, that distance learning would have been just one of those automatic things that we did. So as far as Esser funds are concerned, I would like to see a more robust offering, top-notch as far as distance learning, and I would also like to see a way to evaluate the children, as far as the learning goals and objectives within the last year, and just try to get them back on track. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Speaker number 28, Haley Hicks. 29, Tracy Compton. 30, Shay Cousin. 31, Elman Abdul Rahman, sorry.
Hi. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the ESSER 3 grant. I've come here today as a FCPS parent and also a pediatric emergency medicine physician, concerned not only about my children, but all children in our society that were most affected by COVID-19 learning loss. I have previously spoken to the board regarding my concerns about the learning loss caused by remote instruction, especially in the grades of K to 3, and the need for an evidence-based curriculum for reading, that is, instruction methods based on science. I have this concern because even prior to COVID-19 school closures, only about a third of 4th graders were proficient readers. Knowing the ramifications of inadequate reading on a child's economic life and health, I believe that we as custodians of children have a moral obligation to implement a curriculum based on science and the science of reading, which teaches reading based on scientifically proven approaches. The science of reading teaches the sound of English explicitly and the spelling patterns that represent those sounds systematically using decodable books for practice. The science of reading method teaches in K3 the code so that they'll be able to pull words off the page and master the skill by third grade. I propose that Fairfax County Public Schools use the money to train all teachers on the science of reading so that in the upcoming year, teachers will use methods that is evidence supporting all students. I also strongly suggest that the Fairfax County librarians not only be knowledgeable about the science of reading, but also have decodable books available for parents as they try to help their children catch up. We have amazing librarians who care deeply about children, yet they were not able to answer my questions about decodable books and how parents can teach their child to read. Realizing the education support needed for my kindergarten during school closure, I am concerned that there are many children like him who have not yet received the same support. I know that his learning was impacted by school closure and he has learning deficits that I need to work on, but he is not the focus of my concern. I am talking about children of frontline workers, families who are English learners, families with resources to support their children for many reasons, especially financial. I read that the Esser 3 grant was established to address many aspects of needs arising from the coronavirus pandemic. However, I have many questions about how Fairfax County will use the money spent to directly impact the very children that the money is meant to support. So far, there has been a lack of transparency in the decision making, and I'm not confident that those decisions will reach the children who need this assistance most. But only 2 weeks were given for those students that qualify for summer school, but in 2 weeks, a curriculum that is not effective enough, would 2 weeks be enough for children that need to catch up? How is Fairfax County assessing the needs, and what plans are there to ensure children are at grade level, and by when? And
Thank you. Our next speaker is 32, Wilda Smith Ferguson. Wilda Smith Ferguson.
Whoops. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello. Okay. All right. Hello. My name is Wilda Smith Ferguson. I am a parent of a special needs child who has been in the Fairfax County school system since I guess you could say pre-K. And one of the concerns that I have and that I've been struggling with this entire pandemic is the decisions that are made by the school system in regards to protocols which don't take into consideration at all my child, who is very complicated, has medical issues, and is currently virtual learning and will probably be virtually learning again, at least for the fall semester, because I'm not real confident in the protocols that the school system has in place to address her needs. She is totally dependent on her teachers and the support staff at the high school that she attends, and there are no specific guidelines to address those needs of the kids that are most vulnerable, the kids that cannot speak for themselves, that cannot tell people what is working and what is not working for them. And so I would like to see some of the money in the grant go to basically, instead of trickle down, trickle up. Figure out what is best for the most vulnerable and work up. It's worked before. It's worked in regular society. If you look in the mall, the ramps that able-bodied people use are because of those with disabilities. The indentations in the sidewalk that strollers use and people use as well are because of people with disabilities, the most vulnerable, who have to navigate. And I think that's where the money needs to go, is look first of all at those children that can't speak for themselves, that can't advocate for themselves, that have to have parents like me who often, because we live the life that we live, don't have time to vocal probably as we should be regarding how the school system makes its decisions because of our children, because we're living and breathing something completely different than the greater majority of parents in the school system. A lot of them who are concerned about the social components of their kids, and I get that. I'm concerned that she catches something and she winds up in the hospital. So I would like to see them seriously look at the most vulnerable kids, the Cat 1 kids, and elementary through high school, preschoolers, those with medical disabilities, those with cognitive disabilities, and figure out the program that works best for them and work backwards. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, number 33, Thawana Johnson. Number 34, Allison Gagne. Number 35, Muna Youssef. Number 36, Amanda Steffi.
Good evening, FCPS school board members and community. My name is Amanda Steffi, and I'm a mother of 2 FCPS students, one with special needs and an IEP, and one in middle school in an advanced academic program. My kids have been in FCPS schools for over 12 years, and I'm also a 25-year Air Force officer who has seen many school systems across the country. Thanks for the opportunity to speak at a school board hearing tonight. You all play a very important role in our children's education, and we elected you to represent our children's best educational interests. I'm glad to have an opportunity to share suggestions on how these ESSR funds should be used. I've got 2 uses in mind for these funds. The first recommendation is to use this funding to hire staff who will physically teach in the classroom. If current FCPS teachers do not want to return to work in the fall, let's hire new teachers and staff who will. Virtual teaching is a last resort that should not be used unless absolutely necessary. To address the impacts of COVID-19 on the nation's students, we need school staff to show up in person to educate our children. Virtual learning ensured protection of staff and students until a vaccine became available. What we've seen in Fairfax County is that even though a vaccine was made available and teachers were given priority vaccinations, many chose not to return to brick and mortar school settings earlier this spring. Our kids returned unvaccinated and masked, yet 4 out of 8 of my son's teachers in a 7th grade AAP program did not return to the classroom. Virtual learning has its limits. As a mother of 2 in the FCPS schools, I can tell you firsthand that my kid does not want to raise his hand with a virtual teacher to ask a question and does not want to interrupt the flow of a lesson. If a teacher is not physically present in the classroom, he or she does not see the confused looks on faces in the classroom or take a few moments to interact with a bashful child who approaches the teacher at the beginning or end of a class for help. In-person learning is so valuable because a teacher addresses those students who get lost, ensures that the children understand the concepts, and lessens the chances a student will get so far behind that he or she flunks a class. The second recommendation I have for these funds is to use them for our special education students. Hire additional teachers, aides, and related service providers like PTs and OTs in our 2 FCPS centers, Key Center and Kilmer Center. My 16-year-old daughter, Kate, attends a Key Center school in Springfield, a special needs center of approximately 100 students, all with IEPs. At the end of March, I requested she return in person, and I made that request on time. I was told by the school principal that your daughter cannot return in person at this time because it would be a hardship on my school staff to have their child back in the classroom. We need this money for additional staff and teachers so that our most vulnerable students.
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you. Speaker number 37, Nikki Clayton.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to say that I would like to see these funds used to add school days to the school calendar in the coming year so that our students can make up the time that was so obviously lost by virtual education, including tomorrow, which happens to be inexplicably a virtual education day. It's hard to understand how our students get notifications of absences when the only activity that's performed is a Google spreadsheet that they fill out answering 5 or 6 questions. I really believe that we can do much better and that we need to increase the number of teachers in a classroom and decrease the classroom size. And that was pre-pandemic, and we have an opportunity now to fix that and do so much better. And I hope the school system will do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 8, Nasiba Ben Ghanem. Speaker 38, Nasiba Ben Ghanem. Okay, we'll move on to speaker number 39, Ricky O. Coles Jr. Number 40, Lindsay Latham. Number 41, Kimberly Norton.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board. Good evening. My name is Kim Norton, and I'm an FCPS elementary art teacher in my 33rd year. And I'm also a certified integral yoga instructor with over 300 hours of training. I'm speaking this evening on behalf of CALM, Children and Communities Achieving Lifelong Mindfulness Through Yoga and Meditation, as mentioned by 2 previous speakers. I was first introduced to this group a year ago by another art teacher colleague who values school-based yoga as much as I do. CALM is a program, again, started by Groveton teacher Suzanne Tupy 4 years ago. The objective is to bring CALM to every FCPS school and elementary school and to support social emotional literacy as an additional tool for our students' success. Recently, as part of my master's study, my action research, I used the Goldman's 1995 CASTLE Collaborative for Academic Social and Emotional Learning as the crux of my research. And interestingly, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, FCPS's response was to quickly adopt this same research, include it into the Return to School Professional Development for Educators. According to FCPS and Fairfax County Government, SEL provides numerous benefits to students, including an increase in academic achievement by 11 percentile points, increase of pro-social behaviors, including kindness, sharing, and empathy, an improvement in attitudes towards self and others and school, a reduction also of mental health problems, including depression and high levels of stress. For every dollar invested in SEL programming, there is a savings of $11 that would have spent on costly interventions. One group of researchers argued that school-wide social emotional learning program maximizes full benefits by becoming an organized framework for fostering students' potential as scholars, community members, citizens. Schools are crucial for promoting social emotional learning because children spend so much time in those communities. Presently in Lemon Road Elementary, CALM is offered as one of the many enrichment blocks on Monday mornings. It's very well attended. Evidence gained from my study shows that students who attended CALM classes on a regular basis improved in attendance and participation overall. Feedback from the survey revealed that students' recognition of the positive benefits, both physical and mental wellness. A necessary component for the success of the CALM program is teacher training. It would be extremely beneficial if all CALM instructors would receive common training and a unified curriculum. Thank you so much for your time.
Our next speaker, number 42, Mohammed Naeem. Number 43, Joseph Miller. Number 44, Iman Hamad.
Yes, good evening. I apologize for my voice. I'm under the weather a little bit, but just make it quick. My suggestion is to allocate money to introduce community health post-pandemic. People all over the country, young and old, now know the danger of a bad diet and infectious diseases. Now is the time to introduce nutrition education to the curriculum to build better health for our children. We cannot expect kids to grow and excel without the proper nutrition. Time is of the essence here. Students of all ages were introduced to a public health crisis due to COVID-19. This is an eye-opener for many who over many years were fed food that caused them health issues like blood sugar imbalances, juvenile diabetes, and high blood pressure. I see it every day in the school. Those issues were made recovery from COVID even harder. I heard many speakers today talking about social and emotional literacy programs. But let's face it, if kids are well fed, many of these programs will not be in need as much because appropriate nutrition should make kids happier and healthier, and therefore kids will rise over these issues naturally. I will not spend much time talking about nutrition per se here, but I cannot stress it how important it is at this time in our life to improve the health of our growing children who will be the product of tomorrow. They will actually achieve their best potentials based on good nutrition and good communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker 45, Eileen Chalette.
Good evening. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Fairfax County Parents Association, a nonpartisan, volunteer, grassroots organization of parents that seeks to ensure students are the first priority in Fairfax County Public Schools. My daughter, like all the other children in this county, needs help now. The children in this county need you to open up these ESSER 3 funds to reimburse parents for private tutoring, special education and related services, and private mental health services over this summer. If Fairfax County Public Schools sincerely intends to help students with the ESSER 3 funds, we all need to stop taking every observation of student learning loss as an opening to relitigate the decisions the school board and the superintendent made this year. The fact that students suffered losses doesn't mean that FCPS staff weren't working hard. The fact that students suffered losses doesn't mean that the staff don't care. Whether schools should have opened up in October or December or February is irrelevant, and discussing it now is monumentally unproductive. Whether those decisions were made rightly or wrongly, they were made, and that time is past. Instead, let's start talking about, in the actual language the federal government uses for ESSER 3 funds, the current education needs of the students that FCPS has a duty to care for. Some students will need 60% of an Algebra 2 class. Some students will need speech, occupational, physical, or behavioral therapy. Some students will need an entire extra year of education because they couldn't reliably connect to virtual learning. Some students, like my daughter, will need more than 1 year of education because they're right now behind where they were in February of 2020. Teachers and staff understandably need to recuperate over the summer. Magical thinking about how teachers will 2 years of education into the 2021-2022 school year will simply accelerate the exodus of neighboring school districts and private schools. We don't need fantasies, we need action. FCPS staff can't meet student needs right now. We need to allow this funding to flow to families in order to allow us to meet our children's needs right now. Spending these funds on additional facility improvements, PPE, staff raises, or technology, just because these options don't require FCPS staff to be available right now, would deny students the help they need right now. It would be moral negligence of the highest order. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is number 46, Aurelia Carlson.
Good evening. I don't know if you can hear me or if you can see me, but my name is Aurelia Carlson. Hi, and I am the parent of a newly minted Fairfax County Public School graduate from West Potomac High School, and the mother of two others. I'm also an Air Force retiree after serving 22 years as an officer, and I stayed in Fairfax County with my son from first grade to high school so that he would have the experience being in one school system throughout his school career. And I really appreciate everything that the school system has done for him. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening and talk about where I think that these funds could be very beneficial to our school district. We've already had 3 speakers who have spoken about the mindfulness program, bringing mindfulness studies into the school. And so I can save my time and say that I would also like to see that we dedicate some of the funds to helping interrupt the pipeline from school to prisons for minority students, in that a lot of this, there's school studies that are out there that show that the disciplinary actions that are taken upon minority students, specifically minority males, and I am the mother of 3 sons, that it's harsher than others. And so I would like to see that not only bringing the mindfulness studies to the school system, but also to expand the disciplinary programs to go from a punitive program to one that's more reformative, one that does incorporate mindfulness training to help bring the students who obviously need attention instead of suspension and detention, to take them through with a space where they can have the attention that they need so that they can have actually better intention of why they're in school and what their lives will have for them after they move forward. Looking at my notes. And I also would like to see that, in that medium, that we also expand it so that we call it maybe time out, but not time out in a punitive way. But if a person needs to come into a space where they are feeling that they can voice themselves, where they can relax themselves and bring themselves back into a space of calm so that they can be productive in the school system, for the staff, the students, and the administrators and everyone, that we also expand the program to look at that as well. And so that's it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Speaker number 47, Mariha Clark. Speaker number 48, Elizabeth Lodal. Elizabeth Lodal. Okay, speaker number 49, Carmen Paredes Oliveira.
Oh, I'm on.
Oh, okay, there you are. Go ahead, please.
Can you see me?
We could, and then you disappeared, but we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I hope you can see and hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, school board. What a great job you have, and what a difficult one. My name is Elizabeth Lodal. I'm a former employee of the Fairfax system, having served proudly as principal of 4 different schools, including Kilmer and Hughes Middle Schools, McLean, and TJ High Schools. It was a wonderful 40 years of working in your system. Tonight, I want to introduce you to a new program called EduTutor VA. It's a tutoring nonprofit created by 6 colleagues, 5 of whom are also former Fairfax educators. This includes people you know: Chris Amundson, Eleanor Saslaw, Shirley Bloomquist, Kathy Glazer, and Margie Vanderhei. To address the enormous disruption caused by the pandemic, we have created a virtual tutoring program to serve some of the neediest students in the Title I schools of Fairfax, Arlington, and Alexandria. And at the same time, we are training teachers of the future, because we know there's a terrible teacher shortage. This year, we've served 3 schools, 1 in each district. Next year, we hope to serve 3 more schools in each district. We currently tutor students in the 8th grade at Walt Whitman Middle School in Fairfax. And you're going to learn more about this from my colleague, Kathy Glazer, in just a moment. EduTutor VA's high-intensity tutoring model is based on research by the late Dr. Robert Slavin of Johns Hopkins University. Our tutors work with small groups of 2 students for an hour, 3 times a week. Our tutors are training to become teachers and are current students at George Mason University under the direction of Dr. Robert Palmas, who was also once a Fairfax principal, and are also education students from the 7 campuses of Northern Virginia Community College. EduTutor VA provides ongoing professional development to these tutors, whom we pay for their tutoring work. We pay $15 an hour first semester, $20 an hour second semester, and $25 to our graduate students, most of whom are working at Walt Whitman in Fairfax. In this way, we're helping to encourage and prepare new teachers to come into our public schools. They are discovering the joy of helping a child learn and opening up that child's world and their future. They're learning how to manage a small group, which will pay off when they walk in to a real classroom. Thank you, and we're asking for the Esser funds to fund these students who are tutoring our neediest children.
Thank you. Your time is up. Speaker number 49, Carmen Paredes Oliveira. Speaker number 50, Tina Williams.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good evening. I'm Tina Williams, President of the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers. Thank you for this opportunity to engage as a community on allocating funds for learning for our students that is safe, healthy, engaging, welcoming, and fully supports their needs. Funding should recognize the disproportionate impact of the pandemic on students from low-income families, students of color, children with disabilities, English language learners, migratory students, students experiencing homelessness, and children and youth in foster care, and provide more intensive social, emotional, mental health, and academic services and funding and interventions implemented must address these needs appropriately. To help students and families and staff recover from the pandemic, I ask that you please consider these recommendations as well. Expand community schools to offer direct services and support to students and families. Community schools provide students the resources, opportunities, and programs to ensure that social, emotional, mental wellness, and academic success are and create strong ties among families, students, schools, and community that are necessary for equitable opportunities and to prepare our students for success in life as well as citizens. Offer more activities that promote social engagement. Expand sports programs and clubs such as robotics, STEM, the arts, the COM program, and other related programs. Funds could be used for curriculum, including relevant professional development. Increase mental health support. Our students, staff, and families are experiencing more anxiety, stress, and trauma, and much more support from school counselors, psychologists, social workers, school nurses, specialists, and school support professionals. Funding as many new positions as possible will help to meet the recommended minimum staffing ratios, support the anticipated high demands, and provide appropriate professional development. Compensate FCPS staff by providing a bonus and/or an additional MSA. This will demonstrate they are valued, will improve morale, and help us to attract and retain more high-quality employees. Fund career and technical education programs by providing educators with professional development to expand their knowledge of key technologies and learning methodologies to increase student interest and relevancy of CTE courses to industry occupations. Provide programs to increase awareness of workforce workforce trends and high-demand skills through externships and opportunities to engage with industrial professionals. Also, improve facilities to increase access to courses having specific staffing in hard-to-fill areas like cyber and computer science. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Speaker number 51, Kathy Glazer.
Hello, everyone. I don't see my picture up there, but I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you and see you. Go ahead, please.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's just not a computer. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Glazer, and I'm glad to be so close to Elizabeth Lodel because I'm also speaking about EduTutor VA, the new nonprofit that we all started when we realized how devastating the pandemic was going to be and the severe impact it's going to have on education. As Chris Amundsen, another one of our founders, said, the learning gap is going to become a canyon. And so we're here for three funds because we want to continue what we've done this past year. Let me tell you what happened at Walt Whitman this year. Principal Craig Herring nicely invited us to a school and felt that there was really a learning, a writing issue in some of his 8th grade students. So we, with our tutors from George Mason, graduate students that Dr. Palmas found for us, trained people, many of them knew how to do it, and they jumped right in. And they created a platform so these students could work with our tutors 2 to 3 times a week for an hour. So every day they would come in, they would work in these small online groups, and they would brainstorm ideas, think of ways to do writing in a more engaging way. They learned punctuation and grammar, but most of all, they just wrote, and they liked what they wrote, and they wrote 2 or 3 times a week. I want to tell you a story of one girl, Kylie Quavado, and this was a shy girl that our tutor was assigned. It was perfect, great news that they got connected because this young girl was working through emotionally having a parent be deployed. But Lori was also deployed because she's a military vet, and she also came from a military family. She knew exactly what young Kyrie was thinking about and working through. So that year, working with Kyrie has taught her a lot about writing. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute, but also a lot of good support. And that's what happens with small, intense, targeted tutoring where relationships form. Amanda Gorman, of course, we all remember, wrote, gave that stirring City on the Hill poem. And after that, her tutor, along with one of our other tutors, Tammy Carsolo, they brought a lesson to their kids at Whitman. And one of the poem that Kyrie wrote ended up being so wonderful that it was part of the Whitman talent show. And if you want to see it, you can go to YouTube. It's called Whitman's Got Talent. And I tell you, this poem that young Kyrie wrote will move you and inspire you. So EduTutor VA is coming here tonight for the Esser 3 funds because we want to move and expand. We'd like to expand to 10 tutors at Whitman, but we also want to go to, Mount Vernon Woods. Thank you very much for listening to us, and I hope you help us grow.
Speaker number 52, Talia Goldstein.
Hello, and thank you so much for the opportunity tonight. My name is Talia Goldstein, and I'm the mother of a rising 4th grader in the FCPS schools. I'm also a professor of applied developmental psychology at George Mason University and have a PhD in developmental psychology. My suggestion for the use of the Esser funds is to focus on what students need to help them understand, process, express, and be resilient in the face of the ongoing and prolonged trauma of the past year. Since March of 2020, children have seen their lives become completely interrupted, endured learning new modes of communicating and learning, and had ongoing risk and fear of illness for themselves and their loved ones. Providing space, time, and activities for the processing of these traumas and helping children develop an understanding of their emotions, give them resilience, and build them towards a future with stronger mental health. My hope is that FCPS will consider spending the money to bring in and supplement current artists of all genres and domains to help children express themselves, work together socially, and gain emotional skills. A growing body of developmental psychology research shows that the arts, visual arts, theater, dance, and music are contexts and activities that lead to improved well-being, empathy, and emotional control and knowledge. These activities can be culturally responsive when implemented correctly to the diverse student body of FCPS. Importantly, this developmental psychology research shows that simply participating in an art form for its own sake, not even necessarily with emotional and social outcomes in mind, can help children process and express their emotions. Children are highly motivated to participate in artistic activities. In fact, research shows that attendance increases days in which children know there was an art period during that day. Bringing trained musicians, actors, theater teachers, artists, and who can guide children to see their schools as an emotionally safe and contained space would be a worthy use of Esser funds, setting children up for emotional resilience and self-expression. I advocate for increased time, opportunity, and options for artistic practice, such as dance, theater, music, and arts classes at all levels of K through 12 education, and particularly in the elementary school. Arts can be a pathway for children to express themselves where they may not otherwise have the words or cognitive understanding of what has happened to them over the past year and a half. Thank you for your time and work on these issues.
Thank you. Speaker number 53, Delme Carbajal. Speaker number 54, Tom Cadaret. Number 55, Carlos Orellana. Number 56, Thomas O'Donoghue. Number 57, Donna Janelin. Number 58, Ilana Jurgen Doniger.
Hi. Hello, school board members and FCPS staff. Thank you for your time today. My name is Ilana Jurgen Doniger. I've lived in Fairfax for over a decade, and I have 2 children who are students in Fairfax County Public Schools. I'm speaking today in multiple capacities as a parent, as an avid researcher of COVID-19, and as a leader of the advocacy group FCPS Tech Smart. I'm excited to give input into the use of the Esser funds intended to keep schools open in a safe manner and to address the this past year plus has had on our students. I will speak first to keeping schools open safely. We are so fortunate that older children have vaccines, but the expectation is that school will open this fall with elementary school students unvaccinated. It's wonderful that FCPS will be back 5 days a week this fall, but in addition to masking and making sure that classrooms have good airflow, we need to do more to limit COVID spread in crowded classrooms full of vaccinated elementary students. We've known for a while that testing is really important to stop the spread of COVID because many cases of COVID-19 are asymptomatic, especially amongst children. We know that asymptomatic people spread the virus. So in order to stop spread, we have to identify asymptomatic cases via testing. There must be surveillance testing in elementary schools starting the first week of school. Our county's health department has done some things right, but has gotten COVID-19 testing very wrong. In Fairfax County, you can't get tested for COVID by the county unless you have COVID symptoms and or proven exposure. This is in stark contrast to nearby jurisdictions like Prince William, Alvin, and DC, amongst others, where anyone could just walk up to a county location and get tested for free with no symptoms or known exposure needed. FCPS students under the age of 12 should have automatic access to free testing in Fairfax County without having to show symptoms or proof of contact to get a free test. The Esser fund should be used to set up surveillance testing in schools. Pool testing should begin in elementary schools at the start of the school year and continue until there has been plentiful time for that population to be vaccinated. Montgomery County and other counties have instituted pool testing in schools to stop the spread of COVID. After tonight's hearing, I will email this with links about testing in schools. I'll now speak as a parent, concerned citizen, the leader of the advocacy group FCPS Tech Smart. These Esser funds are supposed to be used to mitigate the impact that this past year plus has had on our children. Amongst other challenges, the pandemic led to so much more screen time for kids of all ages, including our youngest children. We need to get young children back on track with learning how to learn, with social interaction, with classroom skills, and with motor skills that are so important in these younger years. When I talk of using these funds for more technology, it makes my heart hurt. This is the very last thing that these kids need. They need more books, more textbooks, more manipulatives, and more hands-on activities. I beg you to spend money there instead of on more technology. But most of all, the very youngest learners need more support. Many of the children who are entering first grade next year won't have been in a classroom since partway through their pre-K year school at all. These children will have missed the important onboarding that happens in physical kindergarten classrooms, which happens with the help of both a lead teacher and an instructional assistant. Having 2 teachers in kindergarten classrooms allows teachers to spend more time with students and to do more of the hands-on and activities that most help young children to learn. Next year's first graders will be much like kindergartners entering elementary school buildings for the first time. The first grade teachers will be on their own, one teacher to a room full of children, many of whom are new to school. These teachers will need extra hands and extra help. I urge you to use these funds to hire a shared first grade instructional assistant at every elementary school next year. Having that extra help amongst the first grade teachers will make a huge difference in allowing teachers to help these little kids catch up and get where they need to go. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Speaker number 59, Mona Sambuni. Number 60, Vicki Lambert. Number 62, Guadalupe Williamson.
Hi, can you hear me all?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Hello? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
So the money from Esser needs to go directly to the children. Please, please, I beg you, do not use this money for things that do not translate into direct enrichment for children, specifically for children with special needs. My son has an intellectual disability. He, like countless children, especially those in lower elementary and those with disabilities, were severely affected by school closures. The funds need to be spent this summer. You have wasted so much time already. Please don't delay these funds, waiting until the fall. By then, children will already have full-time 5 days a week of school. They don't need to be overwhelmed then. The summer is the time to start. The summer programs that you all feel very proud about that FCPS has launched are only helping a very small part of the students. For instance, my son with an intellectual disability in 3rd grade didn't qualify for it. They are helping kids who don't speak English, but what about my son with the special needs? If you don't have the staff, we parents know service providers. What we don't have is the money. You have been granted that money, a lot of that money. Please do partnerships with tutors, with camps, lessons that are already provided everywhere around our Fairfax County. Let us parents use these resources already in our community. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. These options already exist, but money is usually what prevents the students from accessing these services. Now you have the money. Make those partnerships and let parents be able to use this while you give us the funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 63, Nicole Crane Coolmees. Speaker number 64, Yawan Liu.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Yajun Liu. I very much appreciate your holding this meeting today to hear all the concerns and proposals from everyone who obviously has given it a lot of considerations in terms of how to use the emergency fund. I am a parent of a kindergartner in FCPS, and we're also expecting a new family member the coming summer. So needless to say, there will be multiple members in our house who will be vaccinated by the time that the new school year starts. I would have to share that back in May, when I first received the communication from the county regarding the plan to return to school, I was frankly surprised to see, how restrictive the requirements were for a student to continue to stay virtual due to COVID concerns. A lot of people might recall, students with high risk family members weren't eligible to apply, and there was no guarantee for the special programs, such as the language immersion, the very program that our family and many others have actually moved to this area for. And there was not even a guarantee for the students to go to the same school. And of course, before we had time to really give it some serious considerations, the window for application was already closed within a week. So, while I could appreciate that this, seemingly rushed decision or push for everyone to go back in person was due to resource restrictions, I was at the same time really disappointed to see that there was never any clear communication as to what has led to this consideration, especially during the time that we still have new cases being reported regularly out of schools, and really hundreds of deaths are reported daily across the nation. So this is why I thought the emergency fund really gives us and you, the board members, a real opportunity to give the situation some serious considerations. While I do not have the visibility of the actual limitations that the board had identified to land on the decision that a reasonable virtual option would not be possible, I assume it would have to be based on one or more of the following factors: staff limitation, salary limitation, technology limitation, and if this was accurate, then I would have a set of proposals how to use this fund. The first one would be pertaining to the, maintaining the reasonable virtual opportunity for those who have reasonable needs. Increase the staff salary, increase the number of staff, as needed to ensure that virtual students can continue to go to the same school at least, and to be enrolled in the same programs as in-person classmates. And also invest in the computers and technologies which have actually been widely used over the past year, really making sure that the students who are virtual can still do a synchronized learning as their peers who are going to school in person. And I've heard this being repeated multiple times in the previous speaker's notes. For those who are going to school in person, make sure that the money is spent on the surveillance, on the contact tracing that can quickly identify who have been in close contact. Again, we're hearing reports from the school of positive cases. Test everyone who's been in close contact, really making sure that we're not exposing
your time is up.
Students.
Your time is up.
I just want to say thank you very much for considering this. It's really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 65, Amanda Campbell.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Campbell, and I'm speaking tonight as the Vice President of Fairfax County SEPTA. The Esser funding provides FCPS a chance to begin to address long-existing achievement and opportunity gaps. It is well documented that many of those gaps occur in special education implementation, which is why FCPS began a comprehensive audit of special education services this past year. FCPS must consult the special education audit for their year one recommendations and results now and use them in determining how to allocate this Esser funding. You cannot address the exacerbated gaps without understanding the foundation of the gap's existence in the first place. There are numerous equity and achievement gaps in special education that existed pre-COVID that have been and will continue to be exacerbated by COVID. The achievement gaps in literacy and math for students with disabilities in FCPS are well documented. The reasons for their existence are complicated. Appropriately staffed, equipped classrooms, inclusive curriculum, appropriate levels of related services, and more. The needs for all of these intertwine. Please consider the following concerns when looking to allocate this funding. The turnover rate for special education has historically been higher than general education teachers. How has COVID impacted the turnover rate, especially for our Cat B teachers? What is the plan for addressing this? How has COVID impacted the turnover rate for our related service providers? And how does the turnover rate impact student opportunity and achievement? Cat B teachers often instruct students in multiple grade levels in one classroom. This is not currently an intentional universal design for learning-based practice, but rather one of necessity due to lack of staffing. How can this be improved? Would any single general education teacher be asked to teach 2 or 3 different grade levels in the same classroom at the same time? What about 7 different grade levels? There are Cat B classrooms that serve K to 6 in one room. What does the turnover rate mean for the number of classrooms that are going to serve multiple grade levels at the same time in a single room next year? Will that number increase, and by how much? How does the practice of multiple grade levels in a single room that's currently implemented impact student opportunity and achievement? How much literacy curriculum access do our students with disabilities get compared to their non-disabled peers? Considering SOL pass rates for students with disabilities, approximately 30% lower than those of their non-disabled peers. Research has shown that administrators scheduled almost 2 hours a day of reading and language arts instruction for typically developing 3rd graders. Yet, according to Erickson and Koppenhaver, authors of Comprehensive Literacy for All, students with significant disabilities actually may receive very little time for literacy learning for various reasons, including therapy schedules, provision of special education services, and meeting personal care needs. The Esser funding being one-time funding only presents challenges for how to best approach these complex problems, but that cannot become a reason to continue to ask our special education students, families, and teachers to wait. Every child by name and by need includes our students with disabilities, and it is well past time that the concerns listed here be recognized as systemic issues and addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 66, Diane Cooper Gould.
Hi, good evening. I'm Diane Cooper Gould, Advocacy Chair of Fairfax County SEPTA, and it is a perennial truth that school boards must weigh the demands of many different interest groups when making decisions. There's never enough pie and everyone wants a large piece. With ESSER funding, we must also ask what needs are a result of or worsened by the COVID pandemic. Unquestionably, academic and social emotional learning loss or lack of progress has been the outcome of the COVID pandemic for many, despite the best efforts of staff. If that learning loss is not directly addressed in a systematic and deliberate way, it will negatively affect students for years to come. Additionally, students with IEPs, ESOL students, and those requiring interventions and related services have had their learning loss further compounded. They are at a double deficit. Additional related service providers and social emotional support staff will be required to ensure sufficient time and manpower to address these compounded needs. And I cannot stress how critical it is that the ESSR funds not be haphazardly thrown at a multitude of problems, but rather that the county develop an overarching strategy for COVID loss remediation through universal evaluations, strategic implementation, and progress monitoring. The school board must insist that the plan be specific, data-driven, and cover multiple years, not just 1 year. The initial financial investment must be to tools that will buoy the learning of all students over multiple years, as well as tools that target those with double deficits who have lost significant ground during critical developmental years. We must also be prepared to offer additional learning opportunities after school and over the summers or throughout specialized courses, and this will likely take multiple years as well. As many of you know, SEPTA has been jointly advocating for a switch to structured literacy instruction for all students. Structured literacy based on the science of reading is absolutely best practice for teaching students to read regardless of their ability. Without the fundamental building blocks of literacy, additional knowledge is not accessible. This is the perfect opportunity to invest in this switch, as we have an entire generation of students who have missed out on many of the literacy fundamentals needed to be successful lifelong readers. SEPTA has been further dismayed to discover that many of our subpopulations of students with disabilities have not been receiving much, if any, direct instruction in explicit literacy based in the science of reading. In summation, I urge this board to demand an overarching, explicit, multi-year plan for addressing COVID loss across all settings and grades, and an immediate switch to structured literacy to help students rebound from this devastating year of COVID. Thank you.
Speaker number 67, Shri Mishra. Number 68, Christian Donlin.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson, representatives, and members at large. My name is Christian Donlin, and I'm a band director at Sandburg Middle School. It is no secret to anyone that the past year and a half has been trying. At every given moment, you can peer at your device of choice and hear dissonance running rampant in our society. I can say with unwavering certainty that the ripples from the pandemic are most evident in our instrumental music programs. They've already shown themselves and will intensify in the fall. We are at a tremendous deficit regarding high-quality, practical music participation. Enrollment across the county has been in the West Potomac Pyramid is no exception. There are mountains of research to back up the importance of neurodiversity and the impact on success in other subjects because of ensemble music instruction. While important, that this is only a sliver of what students will lose. I believe that left to a natural course, our students will be at a severe socio-emotional disadvantage. Arts education offers unrivaled pathways to socio-emotional learning. We do most of our work as ensembles and small groups. It isn't just the socio-emotional impact of students' self-image, self-efficacy, and work ethic for the greater good, but how to successfully navigate frustrations and even disagreements in an empathetic way towards others that is paramount. Briefly, exactly what we need to come together as one right now. I love working at Sandburg and with the West Potomac community. Our student population is the best microcosm of our county that I've witnessed. In the band room at Sandburg, your effort and ability to work together is what creates success no matter what neighborhood you live in. In short, a need is a need. Students require opportunity for success outside of the floor, and they need opportunity not reliant on transportation or extra fees to learn social emotional skills with their community at large. I would like to bring the community to all of our band students earlier in their musical journey. We are blessed to have world-class musicians living right in our backyard. We have amazing freelance musicians, but we also have United States military band members. I would like to encourage hourly seasonal coaches to work for elementary school band students. It's a benefit that our secondary schools have because of our booster communities. Musicians, parents, and teachers love it, and the students get exposure to career-level musician mentorship and social-emotional mindset. Even better, one that can follow them up through high school. I think we could reinvigorate the 600 or so 5th and 6th grade routes of our elementary school pyramid at a cost of $20,000. I would like to create a fund for our youngest and most precious student musicians called Band Bootstraps. This would be most beneficial for our at-risk students, since there are maybe more students unable to find bootstraps for themselves. However, in the true spirit of universal learning, it would benefit all students. This program would allow our artist band kids to buy in and enrich our students in ways that other subjects simply can't at a faster rate. I've included endnotes to some research if you are interested. Thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you. Speaker number 69, Rolana Akbar. Number 70, Jorge Figueiredo. Number 71, Mark Poston Reed. Number 71, Mark Poston Reed. We can see you have signed in. Okay. Number 72, Alexander Zarachnik.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me. My name is Alex Zarachnik. Our family has lived in Fairfax County for almost 50 years, and we're fortunate to see our children and our grandchildren benefit from the high quality of education here. So thank you to the parents and the administrators for all of that work. Tonight, frankly, I'm impressed by the heartfelt and thoughtful speakers who have come before me and whose presentations have detailed so many important needs for improving the education of our children, especially minority students, and how the many tremendous new programs proposed to address these needs will place competing claims on the funds available through Esser and ultimately on the Fairfax County school budget. So my comments come from a different direction. The board has an opportunity to fund some of these critical needs identified today by redirecting funds from another program, which, if implemented, will do more harm than good, by increasing racial divisiveness in our classrooms without eliminating racial disparities in academic test scores. The last thing our kids need is to be taught that the color of their skin is how they should be viewed and how they should be considered. That program is the recently let contract for the New York City Leadership Academy. I've submitted 8 specific questions regarding this program, and I ask that the board provide written responses. The most important questions are simply, will you make public the specific program proposals and instructions and training materials developed from your contract with the New York City Leadership Academy, and respond to input from parents on those programs and instructions prior to implementation? And will you consider redirecting those funds to the many needs for which our parents and teachers are pleading for today? Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 73, Angela Boyer. Go ahead, please, Ms. Boyer. Oh, okay. We will come back to Angela Boyer. Number 74, Ken Casasa. 75, Carolyn Demar. 76, Han Chen. 77, Hassan Shah. 78, Marily Gutierrez. 79, Kim Espinoza.
Hello there, this is Jeanette Corsilius. I'm actually going to step in for Kim Espinoza as she is in traffic, if that is okay.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and FCPS leadership. My name is Jeanette Corsilius, a music educator, FCPS alum, and an at-large member of the board of the Fairfax Education Association, my union. I am an advocate for the CALM program, Children in Schools Achieving Lifelong Mindfulness. CALM is a program that I was exposed to in late July with my colleague Sarah Jane Blake, which you heard speak earlier this evening. She shared information with me about it, and I proceeded to attend a virtual meeting where Sue Ann Tupy, the founder and creator of this program, was speaking and advocating to fellow classroom teachers and specialists and advocates. I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. I met Sarah Jane at Lemon Road when she was teaching art there, and we instantly became friends because we had a lot in common. Sarah Jane's godmother and aunt was an advocate for counseling positions over a 4-year period from 1985 to 1989. And we know how important it is to have counselors in the school system. However, our counselors are not able to spend time with our students one-on-one, and they need more time with our students to spend time with them one-on-one to help them through this anxiety and provoking time. CALM is a mindfulness-based movement program that helps our students through this crisis and the crises that they were dealing with prior to the pandemic and will continue to go through after this pandemic. I can speak so broadly on this topic, but I will say that yoga and meditation and mindfulness has saved my life. It's saved so many people's lives. And I know it will continue to save our students' lives if we allow this program to flourish and expand within our school system. I've heard many times throughout this school year from students, staff, school board members, and community for the need to support our students' mental health. Give this program a chance. Use your Esser funds to fund this program. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Speaker number 80, Renee Gorman. Go ahead, Ms. Gorman. Ms. Gorman, we can't hear you. Okay. We still can't hear you. We can come back to you while you figure that out, is that? And we'll move on to number 81, Fanny Salazar-Lasky.
Good evening, board members. I'm gonna start saying thank you very much for everything you've been doing. I'm from New York many years ago, and here in 2010, and I'm a military family. We are a military family. We support. The reason we moved here because education is a great education in here, and apparently it's also from Hardon Middle School. And support the Hardon program. They have been doing a lot of volunteer work. Please, I will ask them to support our school here, Title I school, and also the program JRTC. Just recently, my son passed away with COVID, and my son was great. Always volunteer because this program is great. I'm friends with Renee Gorman too. She's here, and she knows how much the families here they need. If you don't take care of the root, the families. And here, doesn't matter all the programs we can have, we can spend all the money, but we don't take care of the families. It's about computer, simple stuff, parent view, all this stuff, simple stuff. And here in Hardon, yes, they need the hunger to learn English, they're hungry to learn basic stuff. Please use the money to Hardon Pyramid. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back and call Angela Boyer.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
There we go. I don't know what that was. Okay, good evening. I have a couple things I'd like to speak with you about. First involves a recent ransomware attack that made the news again. We have FOIA'd that information to Ms. Tholen and have so far gotten no details provided to us. So my first few questions would be, what is the total dollar expended to pay the ransom? And from what Fairfax County account was that money taken? Was it taken from the general budget? And would those funds be used to be repaid by the American Rescue Plan if required, if there were subsequent ransom attacks? The Colonial Pipeline and City of Baltimore disclosed to their stockholders and their citizens what the costs were, yet we've heard nothing. Could it be that it was a Fairfax County employee that caused the attack and perhaps no one wants to admit that? And if so, do we have access to who he was? And I'd like to know why no one is interested in getting to the truth. So from our perspective, equity is a very powerful word these days, very misused, but I'll get to that in a second. How many programs need to be eliminated or curtailed to pay for the ransomware attack?
Excuse me, Ms. Boyer, it would be most helpful to the board to hear how you're interested in seeing ESSER funds spent, please. Thank you so much.
Well, I think that these funds could be redirected in ways that are much more positive for the environment, for the education of our children, and not spent as they have often been in programs that don't give results that the parents and the community members find important and are representative of their equity in the system for which we pay. So let me just digress real quickly then and close this all up for you. I recently attended the Ed Equity Conference, the webinar. I thought it was fascinating for many reasons, but fascinating because what I didn't know. It's all based on an idea of cultural competency, which are behaviors that allow a group to work together effectively. And I would say to you that it's teaching the very and promoting the very opposite. Did you know that our historical issues permeate our culture and our education? I'd like to take funds away from the American Rescue Plan and erase all of the CRT and 1619 propaganda that's being infiltrated into our school system.
I'm sorry, Ms. Boyer. We really would
you're minding our children for their struggles.
Excuse me, Ms. Boyer, if I could just give you some guidance on how to best inform the board. We'd love to hear how to spend the ESSER funds, please. Thank you so much.
How about you spend the ESSER funds on removing critical race theory and 1619 project materials from the education system? That means educating the coaches, educating the teachers, educating the staff, which I know you have a 2-year program to do repeatedly. And I think that we need to derail that process and not create hall monitors and behavior monitors that are going to be spying, teaching the kids to spy on each other. And there'll be more next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaker number 80, Renee Gorman. Ms. Gorman, go ahead, please. Renee Gorman. We still cannot hear you, Ms. Gorman. I'm sorry. Speaker number 82, Bethlehem Bear. Speaker number 83, Kathleen Mallard. Speaker number 84, Wendy Eichholz. Number 86, George Tarico.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. Good evening, school board. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jorge Tarico, Fairfax County parent of 3.
You knew
also
I was.
Fairfax.
Hello, I'm here.
Also,
Okay, we will
proceed?
call you, Ms. Mallard, we will call you after this speaker. Thank you. Go
Thank
ahead,
you
please,
very
Mr.
much.
Tarico.
I apologize for interrupting
problem.
the speaker. Please give him a few more seconds.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Again, my name is Jorge Tarico, parent of 3 Fairfax County Public School students, also a Fairfax County Public School graduate. And I'm here to actually, I'm a part of 2 nonprofits. One's the TJ Alumni Action Group, but I'm not here to discuss that. I'm here to address my role in the board of Edu Futuro. Edu Futuro is a nonprofit founded in 1998 with a proud history of serving the population of our area. Recently, serving over a population of people from over 60 different separate countries. And I wanted to bring to light the work that Edu Futuro has been doing for over 20 years in our community, because I believe that Edu Futuro is really in a great position to continue to serve our community if these Esser funds are made available to Edu Futuro. Our population in Fairfax County is a very diverse population with a very diverse set of needs, as evidenced by the people that are here expressing and advocating for their perspectives. So I definitely think that these funds shouldn't just go to one set of interests, but rather it should go to serve the diverse population that we have. And in particular, to empower our diverse communities and our diverse centers of service. In particular, Edu Futuro has developed a research-based 2-generational approach that ensures immigrant youth and families attain secondary goals, improve long-term financial stability, and strengthen inter-family cohesiveness. Every year, more families are positively impacted by Edu Futuro's programs. The past year of 2019 to 2020, they provided 2,628 services for 2,021 uncomplicated individuals. The services that they provide are at 2 levels, both for the students and for the parents. And I'm beginning to see the effectiveness of their work. And rather than support new nonprofits that are newly being formed, rather than allow money to establishing new things, we should really unite to support the work that's already being done out there in the community. And I believe, and that's why I got involved with Edu Futuro, I believe that they are doing the work. I plead for the school board to very much consider and portion out an equitable sum over to Edu Futuro to continue the work that they're doing, the impact that they're having both on students, parents, and the growing workforce that they're helping develop. Thank you so much for this evening's time. Thank you for all your work that you do. Certainly, you guys are always overworked and under-recognized. So I very much appreciate the school board and everything that you have been doing for us. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Speaker number 83, Kathleen Mallard.
Thank you. Thank you. Everything okay? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you see me?
We can hear you, but not see you.
You can't see me. Okay, here we go. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. I welcome the opportunity to speak to you tonight, and just
you refuse
so many amazing
to take complaints. You refuse to operate
please mute your line if you're speaking, please. Only Mr. Hollinger, can you please mute while you're not speaking? Thank you. Miss Mallard, please continue. Thank you.
I have a First Amendment right to be heard, and you've refused.
Excuse me, Mr. Hollinger, you'll have your turn, just not right this moment, please. Thank you. Miss Mallard, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. There have been so many impressive speakers this evening, parents and teachers and others involved with the Fairfax County Public Schools with different programs that will help bring our kids back into the classroom in a healthy and safe way. As everybody knows, the purpose of this ESSER relief is $189 million to help safely reopen and sustain safe operations of schools. We have to look at the students' academic needs, their social needs, their emotional needs, and their mental health needs, which will be great. We know there's been an uptick in suicide among our students. So because of due to isolation and the trauma of the loss, including their social, mental, and physical activities. I thought it was very interesting about art. Art is very important for our students, music. So, and also our special needs children, of course, we have to focus and direct those funds to help them and ESOL students, many of whom probably don't have much of a voice because their parents are probably non-English speakers themselves. So these are all serious concerns worthy of our consideration for use of these important funds. However, as also is expressed by several speakers, we need to be extremely cautious about using these funds for purposes that promote divisiveness and racism under the guise of promoting anti-bias and anti-racism. As we all know, FCPS Superintendent Scott Braven has entered into a contract with the Leadership Academy to the tune of $700,000. Is that money coming from EESSER funds instead of some other, we don't know, some other source? The Leadership Academy is, they're going to revise.
Ms. Mallard, it would be so helpful for you to please continue on the yet to be spent or budgeted ESSER funds. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, you're not getting me off, are you?
No, just trying to,
thank you.
To get to that more helpful information
Thank you
for the
so
board
much.
this evening.
And well, I mean, I really hope that the funds will be used to help, especially those students who are most in need, do not have access to tutoring, who are not able to have parents at home to help them. So, but I am concerned. I mean, I think we're all concerned, and I haven't seen we haven't seen the actual budget, so it's hard to say. I'm just saying, I hope it won't be used to divide our students. I hope these monies will be used to bring our students back, to bring them together, and not to.
Thank you. We're going to go back to speaker number 30, Shay Cousin. Shay Cousin.
Hi, I'm sorry. I was muted talking to everyone. I apologize
Go
for
ahead,
being
please.
late. I apologize for being late. I was in an emergency HOA meeting. I just want to thank everybody for helping my family and my kids get through this last year. It's been, a nightmare situation, and I like that we all kind of stuck together. I'm so proud of the teachers and what they've done. My main concern with the budget is that children have fallen behind, and I'd like to see more tutoring. And I was kind of disappointed that there's nothing available for this summer for just like, my kids can join their homeschool for an entire day of doing art, but there was no like math or anything to help them get further along, and kind of catch up with their peers, or at least get back to where they're supposed to be. So I'd like to see some the funds diverted to tutoring. I really think that's helpful. So that's one segment that I'd like to discuss. And the second one is I am all about safety and smaller classroom sizes. I'd like to know how the budget is going to help pay for us having smaller classrooms. When our kids return to the fall, are they going to have a space around them? Are they going to be crammed into a room with 33 kids? I mean, how is this going to work? And I think smaller classrooms are more successful academically. So I'd like to know what Fairfax County is going to do to try to make it a more successful, smaller classroom environment. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Number 43, Joseph Miller.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to recommend spending some of these funds on school renovations. If you look at the Justice High School pyramid, the superintendent has not listed any of those schools that are supposedly overcrowded in the CIP for the next 4 years. And the top 10 that have already been completed are disproportionately white compared to those schools in the Justice High School pyramid. And this is going on throughout the county, this misallocation of resources to renovate schools with the lowest need first, and to, just leave the other schools hanging in the air while they do boundary adjustments. So I just wanted to put that in the record for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 70, Jorge Figueiredo. Jorge Figueredo.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Good evening, Chairwoman Anderson and distinguished members of the Fairfax County School Board. My name is Jorge Figueredo. I'm the Executive Director of EduFuturo, a 501c3 community-based organization with the mission of breaking the cycle of poverty for low-income immigrant and minority families in Northern Virginia through education, leadership development, and family engagement. We're proud to be an Ignite partner with FCPS, and I am grateful for this opportunity to share some great news about the Latino and immigrant students served by EduFuturo. I would also like to encourage you to include nonprofit partner organizations like EduFuturo in your consideration for much needed Esser funding. The work of EduFuturo is based on the concept of education as a critical catalyst for positive, permanent change in the lives of low-income families. We provide students with a path to college through the Emerging Leaders Program, while at the same time empowering their parents through our parent empowerment services. ELP offers a continuum of academic support and skills training for Latino and immigrant students in grades 4 to 12 that prepare youth for college enrollment and career success. ELP STEM and robotics clubs help elementary and middle school students develop competence in STEM subjects. ELP1 provides high school students with leadership and skills training for college readiness. ELP2 helps high school seniors gain access to college and financial aid, and ELP3 supports first-generation college students. I am very proud to report that despite the enormous academic disruption of the pandemic, our 47 ELP graduates in 2020 were offered $2.4 million in financial aid and scholarships for their first year of college, and $5.5 million in their fourth-year renewable college scholarships and financial aid. I am even more proud to add that this year, EduFuturo has nearly doubled the number of students in our flagship college admission and financial aid program, ELP2, and the 83 students we mentored and supported for the entire school year, and they have already broke all the records for our organization, earning more than $20 million in scholarships and financial aid for their 4 years of college. Additional monies are still coming, and our students have already received acceptance notices from Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Duke, George Mason, George Washington, Marymount, UVA, NOVA, and other post-secondary institutions. I want to emphasize that this major accomplishment is a testament to the hard work and relentless determination of our students who refuse to allow the pandemic to steal their opportunity to reach their dream of college education. This accomplishment is also the testament of the outstanding work of our bilingual staff members who spent approximately 8,100 hours working with the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 35, Muna Youssef. Muna Youssef. Okay, speaker number 71, Mark Poston Reed.
Hi, this is, thanks for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to thank the board and the staff there at the FCPS for allowing this opportunity. What I'd like to say is that echoing a lot of what I've heard so far,
Oh, Mr. Poston Reed, I think we just lost you. Are you there? Hello, Mr. Poston Reed?
I guess we'll come back. Speaker number 80, Renee Gorman. Renee Gorman. Speaker number, we cannot hear you, Ms. Gorman. I'm so sorry. Speaker number 82, Bethlehem Berhe. Mr. Reed, are you reconnected? No. Okay. Speaker number 83, we had that, sorry. Speaker number 84, Wendy Eichholz. Number 87, Serene Al-Momen.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everyone. Can you see me?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you all today. My name is Serene Al-Momen. My son is a student at Cabran Elementary School in Centerville, Virginia. I'm here to speak with the board about the importance of improving the infrastructure in our schools. All of us agree that infrastructure improvement is needed to produce the learning environment for our children and keeping them safe. Based on my work as a CEO of a technology company based in Virginia named Senseware, I have seen firsthand infrastructure challenges being faced today at schools across the country. The state of California is a leader in this area and has recognized the deficiency in their infrastructures. Based on the acknowledged science of high CO2 levels negatively impact children's cognitive ability, they now mandate active CO2 measurements in classrooms to improve HVAC ventilation performance. We all believe that Fairfax County should be a leader in the education arena. Active indoor air quality monitoring should be one of the first items addressed in the infrastructure improvement budget. Commercial real estate operators are adopting real-time indoor air quality monitoring as part of their plans to reopen spaces safely in this COVID environment. These infrastructure improvements should represent the minimum investments by Fairfax County. The technology is here and progressive. And the progressive school systems like the District of Columbia have already taken proactive measures in implementing real-time indoor air quality monitoring to improve ventilation performance for the children of DC. Fairfax County cannot sit back passively while other school districts take care of their children. Keeping our kids safe means monitoring the air they breathe. Thank you so much, and I appreciate all the hard work you have done.
Thank you. I see speaker number 71 is signed in. Mark Austin Reed.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry about that. I've been having connection issues. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the board and moderators and the staff. I'll just be really brief. Based on the comments we've heard, everybody's very concerned about what has happened in the last year and a half. And my concern, or what I like to see the funds used for, is primarily to help kids who have been have had a tough time during this whole period. You know, kids with 2 or more Fs, and kind of having some kind of mandatory support training. I mean, support help in especially in math, reading, science, and from K through 12, whoever needs it to be able to get it from the summer through the next school year. We have to somehow redouble efforts in terms of, I've heard people mention, you know, like the middle school after school. We're also increasing the after school availability in high school, and you know, anything that we can do to help improve the academic performance for kids who need it. And that would be the best way I think that the funds should be used. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 88, Denora Umana. Number 89, Marlene Santu. Number 90, Kevin Hollinger. Number 91, Emily Vanderhoff.
Hello. Good evening, Chairman Anderson, Dr. Brabrand, and members of the board. My name is Emily Vanderhoff. I'm a first grade teacher at Hunt Valley Elementary School and a proud member of my union, FCFT. I'm also speaking tonight as a member of the Fairfax NAACP Literacy Subcommittee. I'm here to speak in favor of using ESSER 3 funding toward supporting FCPS's move toward implementing structured literacy at the elementary level. One of the purposes of ESSER 3 funding is to address the impact of COVID-19 on students by supporting their academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs. One of the best ways to support students' academic needs and ensure the academic success of all students is to create lasting, meaningful changes in our approach to literacy by moving away from balanced literacy and adopting a structured literacy approach. I'm encouraged that FCPS has heard the call from numerous groups calling for structured literacy and is beginning to make plans for implementation. The key to making this fundamental shift in our approach to literacy is high-quality training for staff. This summer, a few staff members from each school will participate in a one-week intensive training in Orton-Gillingham. Orton-Gillingham is the gold standard for literacy practices that align with the science of reading, and I'm grateful that we'll begin to train more staff in these methods. However, at this time, this training is only being offered to 1 or 2 staff members at each school, typically reading specialists and some special education teachers. Orton-Gillingham training must be provided by a registered Orton-Gillingham fellow, so this training cannot be turned around training from reading specialists to teachers. In order to see the true impact needed and to ensure that every child has access to high-quality literacy instruction that aligns with the last 40 years of research in how they learns to read, we must train all K-3 instructional staff in practices that align with the science of reading as soon as possible. I've heard that primary instructional staff will receive a one-day training in August and have mandatory phonics lessons to teach in the coming year. I've also heard that FCPS does not plan to move away from balanced literacy, but rather merge practices from both balanced literacy and structured literacy. This is not the way to create meaningful change. Making this shift to structured literacy means a fundamental change in our understanding of how children learn how to read. It also means an overhaul of instructional practices that we've been using for years and that have actually been found to harm the process of orthographic mapping. This is the process the brain uses to match the sounds in a spoken word to the letters on the page and pair it with meaning to store a word in long-term memory for instant retrieval. I've been learning about the science of reading for over a year now. It's taken me time to fully understand the urgency of changing my instruction and also learn practices to support my first graders in developing a proficient reader. I'm still by no means an expert, and I continue to read and seek out training in my free time to improve my practice. Making a system-wide shift is going to involve robust training, which will come at a cost. We must dedicate Esser 3 funding toward providing ongoing, high-quality training, such as Orton-Gillingham, to training to all K-3 instructional staff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Speaker number 92, Maria Worthen.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you very much for your leadership during this challenging time. My name is Maria Worthen, and along with Emily Vanderhoff, who just came before me, I'm a member of the Fairfax County chapter of the NAACP, a parent of a rising FCPS student, and also a lifelong advocate for equity in public education, an issue to which I've devoted my entire career. There has been much discussion this year of learning loss. The fact is, far too many FCPS students have been losing out on the opportunity to learn to read for at least the last 2 decades. The pandemic has only deepened and made these gaps deeper. This is a long-term problem that demands long-term investments, not short-term band-aids. As such, I urge you to invest Esser funds in district-wide implementation of structured literacy in K-3. With all the requisite supports to teachers, including instructional materials, coaches, assessments, to ensure comprehensive implementation with fidelity in teacher and leader capacity to sustain it. The science of reading, the established body of evidence-based research on how children learn to read, has been around for at least the last 22 years. And yet, in 2019, the achievement gap was only 2 points less than it was in 2006, 18%. And yet FCPS continues to implement a balanced literacy approach, which even the developer has acknowledged is not empirically effective. This is educational malpractice. If a medical treatment had been disproved by science 2 decades ago, we would see another doctor, but FCPS learners do not have the choice to simply change districts. Esser funds should support a comprehensive switch to an evidence-based structured literacy methodology. This must be implemented with fidelity, division-wide, in the general education classroom, starting in kindergarten and continuing through 3rd grade. Science is clear that effective K-3 reading instruction requires a strong core curriculum, which must include explicit, systematic core classroom instruction. In addition, we must have instructional materials that are aligned to research, appropriate reading assessments, timely intervention, and high-quality, embedded, ongoing professional development in each FCPS school. training a few staff members is not enough, as Emily just mentioned. It should be a core element of the K-3 core curriculum. This moment demands nothing less than a redesign of our educational models to be responsive to the needs of every student, allow them to develop to their full potential, and right wrongs that have been continuing for generations, forcing our most marginalized to miss out on the basic human right to read. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. We have 3 additional speakers that are signed in. Muna Youssef. Speaker number 35, Muna Youssef. Speaker number 80, Renee Gorman.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, let me start the video. Okay. Trying to get the video on as well, but okay, thank you very much for the opportunity and apologize for those difficulties, but I'm a school counselor at Hutchinson Elementary School. It's a Title I school, 100% free and reduced lunch. And I wanted to just speak of some of the things that I see come to me as a school counselor. And in my experience as a school counselor, it would be beneficial to use the Esser funds to hire additional mental health staff, counselors, social workers, psychology, moving away from formulas away from numbers, but needs-based. One size does not fit all. I heard Mr. Hall say that as well. And I think we found that out, that there were some inequities, and we would certainly benefit the Title I schools from more mental health staff, and all schools from that matter. Trauma existed in the lives of these students pre-pandemic, and now they have additional trauma burdens related to the effects of the pandemic. The needs have been amplified, treating with more stressors, hurdles to deal emotionally, and students are experiencing difficulty regulating emotions and accessing the education. These are some of the things that students have expressed to me. Feeling uncomfortable eating or drinking publicly because they feel self-conscious and inhibited. Students are going 8 hours without food or drink, not because Fairfax County doesn't provide food, yes they do, but because of the emotional impact. They are you can imagine without lack of nutrients and hydration how academic and emotional behavior is affected. The students express feelings of embarrassment, feeling that everyone's staring at them, not doing natural things like eating, and talking with their peers has become a painful experience for them. They like the mask covering. It provides a barrier for them to block emotions and provide emotional comfort. Many students persist to wear hoods prior to the COVID, but that's increased. It helps them feel secure and control. Students feel uncomfortable speaking in class as they're not used to talking in public. They feel their actions are being magnified. Everyone's watching them. They want to position themselves in the back of the class so that they can blend in. It helps them feel safe. The lights in the class are giving them stress and headaches, different environment from being home in a darker room. Some students have had previous difficulty engaging in healthy peer relationships. The pandemic experience has further stunted social emotional relationships. Students have expressed feelings of loss and uncertainty in relating to friendships. So therefore, I'm definitely recommending Esser funds are used to more mental health professionals in the schools. Another recommendation is the use of funds is for professional development for all staff, providing depth of knowledge and strategies for social emotional learning. Investing in additional well-trained mental health staff and PD will help support the elevated social, emotional, and academic needs of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more speaker, Bethlehem Berhe.
Hi, this is Bethlehem Berhe. I am working FCPS PHT. I started this year, 2021. I have 2 kids to go middle school in Fairfax. And I want to say thank you for the teacher and the staff, because this is hard time to work. Is appreciated. For kids is hard to a virtual class. I hope next year everything is going well in person. And thank you so much. Thank you. Give me time. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our final speaker.
Great. Well, thank you so much to Ms. Mulberg and Ms. Madeja for helping, and Ms. Cornell for helping to navigate this robust list of speakers. This is it was a very full hearing, and it is very important for us to hear from the community, and it's been very helpful not only for the board, but also the superintendent and staff to hear. So the school board and the school division will be continuing to keep the community informed of what is happening with these ESSER funds as they begin to get budgeted. The board will be approving the plan, if I'm remembering correctly, and we will continue to advocate that, and to inform the community on the webpage that is dedicated to the ESSER funding process. So with that, I believe that we are finished, and we will adjourn for the evening. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Miss Marin. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Thank you.